Hey, hello. How are you doing? Thank you for joining this TaigaNext live update. Some of you were requesting that we could share some of the great stuff we're working on, and we just thought it was a good timing, like the sort of almost summertime, so you could understand the whys and the whats of what we're doing and what to expect. So this, even though we planned for an hour here, I think it would be safe to say should not last longer than 45 minutes, but it will always depend on your questions. So we have plenty of time. So a bit of context. So as you might remember, we released Taiga 6 a year ago, a bit more than a year ago. That was February 2021. And Taiga 6 was, there was a ton of stuff that we put into that. We had the Kanban stream lanes, we have revamped UI, we had new filtering, all that, right? So we also allowed for easier deployments with Docker and, for your self-hosting options that would always give you more autonomy compared to other solutions, right? With Taiga, you can have the SaaS, software as a service that we provide, or you can just self-host, so total freedom of choice there. But at the same time, the team felt that even though it was a great achievement, particularly in pandemic times, it was also an end of a cycle. It was like the best that we could do with the taking into account the old or the previous era. Why I'm saying that? Because we've been releasing and developing Taiga for a number of years now, since we created that at one of our Pi Weeks at Kaleidos, the Personal Innovation Week, this week-long hackathon. And we wanted to explore beyond the current lean/agile concept. So for that, we needed to think not in terms of Taiga 7, but in terms of TaigaNext. So the team wanted to give themselves the freedom, the opportunity to rethink some of the ideas behind Taiga. Also, it was an end of a cycle because we had launched PenPod. Actually, the past February in 2021, roughly at the same time, we released our second open source product called PenPod, penpod.app, a design and prototype tool. So it's open source. It uses SVG as the native format. You can use it on the browser, so it's completely open system independent. You can self-host it, and we released that as an alpha. But even though it was just an alpha, we knew we would have to take into account that we no longer had just one open source product, but two. So that was also considered like a sort of um, change in the status quo at Kaleidos. And that actually is related to the third contribution to this new thinking, to this thinking that it was an end of a cycle for Taiga. And that was that we decided to ditch our old business. We decided to no longer accept projects as an agency, as a consultancy for startups or the big organizations. We decided that we wanted to just do open source products and make those successful and sustainable. So with all that, we could not name the next iteration of Taiga 7. We just came up with this code name. It's not, I don't think it's going to be the name, right? We'll see, because these things tend to stick longer than expected. But TaigaNext is just a code name for something new. So TaigaNext, what we've been doing and why. So this is we're sharing. I'm going to share some progress. I'm going to do a little demo. I'm going to take questions. But you'll see that there is a shared theme throughout today's update, and the shared theme is strategic vision. So even though we're going to go for a demo, there's things that go beyond the demo itself. It's just things that we want to share with you. So and hopefully we'll get the message through. We'll see. You tell me. So I have some notes here. So TaigaNext, um, we want to create an agile tool that is clearly at the vanguard. We want to be thought leaders. We want to create something unique that when people actually use it, you clearly see there's a lot of thought put into it, and it's helping you beyond your expectations. And for that, we need to just redefine some stuff. So TaigaNext is also about rethinking lean/agile workflows. The second thing we want to do with TaigaNext is to focus more on our ideal niche, like our ideal audience. We know there's a lot of people using Taiga out there, like for planning a wedding, or from that to just journalist work, or risk assessment at banks, or many different use cases. But we also know that probably because of the nature of Kaleidos, the sweet spot that we have for Taiga is cross-functional teams in IT, like design and development, plus all the relevant stakeholders around that. So I think we want TaigaNext to make sure that we hit the mark with that audience, and still we will have this Gaussian curve or bell curve, where you have this long tail of use cases that are not critical to you and still valid, but we want to make sure we are delivering something special to that specific audience. Also because even though we can do a ton of research, that audience, we understand it much better because it's us, or our aspirational us, right? The third thing we wanted to do with TaigaNext is encourage a more dynamic community. The community in Taiga is fantastic. It's vibrant. It contributes. We have a ton of feedback. Quite active. It's global. Probably, I think, for an agile tool, we have the most global community that there is, and that's thank you all to do that. The reach that we have with Taiga, I don't think it can be matched by any other agile tool, probably because it's open source, but not only because of that. So but we want to make sure there's more conversation, more plugins, more contributions, more core contributions, and so have also easier to find places where you can have a chat with us, etc., etc. So that's also something we wanted to do. And finally, with TaigaNext, what we want to do is to find the right confluence, the right match, integration, whatever you want to call it, with PenPod. Because, yeah, we have two products, and unsurprisingly, they are meant for the same audience, like cross-functional teams. So Taiga is for team dynamics, doing agile, tracking projects, and all that. And PenPod is for a design and prototype in those same projects, most probably, right? So uh, it makes sense for us to think about cross-tool workflows, seamless integration, right? We'll discuss that a bit later, but that's also what we want to do with Taiga next. So now you might be saying, okay, that's fantastic, but in terms of actual stuff or features/benefits, what's in there for me? So of course, we're going to, before I go into the demo, to show you just a sneak peek. Um, we want to just rethink and redefine all major modules. Those modules are, you know them well, they're epics, Scrum, with its own Sprint dashboard, right? The Kanban issues, wiki, etc. Project settings, all that has to be rethinked. Has to, in the sense that we want to have that opportunity. So that's one thing that we want to do, plus have all these multi-project, multi-team support. Like go beyond the project as an entity and think that there are teams out there that uh, cannot see just a team, a project, that basically they would like to have a broader vision, a more strategic vision of all the projects that are ongoing. And to do that, we need to create new entities in Taiga to allow for that. Plus, getting this organization slash workspace concept. An organization would be like some bigger entity where you can find projects within workspaces in that organization. And you can be basically what the organization slash workspace model tries to match how organizations actually work, how they perceive the tool in a relationship that they can feel more natural. Right now, the project owner in Taiga has too much power. Sometimes they want that power, but sometimes they would not want to have that much power. They would want to say, I'm just like a local admin of this project, but actually the ownership or the final word belongs to this other admin. And that other admin could be like a workspace slash department or unit, or even higher up the organization. So we want to create those structures. And actually, in a way, the demo is going to show you that. Let me sip a bit of water here. Okay, so I'm going to very quickly, well, no, I'm not sure it's going to be very quickly, but for me, it's going to feel very quickly, surely. A demo. I'm going to show you a bit of the visual style. I'm not going to go into much detail because we want to present this in due time, the right way, to explain why we're doing this with a brand and all that. So you're going to see it, you're going to experience it, but I'm not going to comment on it. Also, the demo is going to show you this workspace concept. And also, I'm going to talk about, through the usage of this, I'm going to talk about accessibility and why it matters. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. So welcome to the Taiga login page. I'm going to just put my notes here. I have the script. I don't want to miss anything here. So I'm going to log in to my Taiga account with this user one demo. Yeah, it's not a strong password. I know that. So here you can see a new layout. This is completely new. You haven't seen this in the whole history of Taiga. This is your new project's dashboard. And here the basic change, the major change, that you have workspaces. All these are workspaces. I can just click on one and just see it in detail. But here is like a collection of all those workspaces. The idea behind the workspaces is that they are ordered in a particular way. It will be something we can comment on in the future, but basically depending on your status of that workspace, whether you're an admin or an owner or a member or a guest, those workspaces are shown in a different order. And within workspace, you see different projects. This allows me to basically show you that I have this project here. This is several roles. By the way, don't go into the names of the workspaces or the projects, are just basically puns all over the place. They don't mean anything. So here we have this project, the members here, and I want to show you a bit about the project settings and why we feel it's so important. So the idea behind the organization, the workspace, and the project is that we consider Taiga 6 approach to simplistic, and we want to make sure you have all the flexibility without all the complexity. So here you have different roles. You have the administrator as a different role, and you have all these custom options, all the advanced settings arranged in a more natural way. You're familiar with Taiga, you know that comment is something separate. Now it's not. It's coupled with where it belongs, right? And I could just go and say can view, and just everything changes. right? The moment I say, okay, this role developer doesn't have any members, so it's fine for me to say issues can edit, you get into the custom. So we've given a lot of thought to immediate visual feedback for anyone entitled to make any changes to the permissions, so that it's no longer like painful to have control over who has access to that. Now, you know that at Taiga, we believe in consenting adults philosophy, right? That we want people to enjoy almost total freedom, and just in those exceptional cases, be restricted in some way. But even with that, you can do it the right way or the wrong way. And we think we're approaching this the right way. So of course, if you can view sprints, why not be able to comment? But if you can edit, um, yeah. So yeah, view, you can just toggle this, right? So it's a different arrangement. It doesn't look like it's a ton of rework, but it is. Believe me, it is. Also, the public permissions. A lot of users, Taiga users, have said, look, it's difficult for me to understand what the external user role means. So we've refined about that. Okay, so I think this is super cool, and I think we'll write an article on this in detail so you can follow it. But one thing I want to mention here is about accessibility. So I'm using the tab now. I'm not going to use a screen reader for now, but I'm going to use the tab. So I can go tab, and I can go shift tab, and so I can navigate right backwards and forward. And we've made sure that everything is keyboard enabled in a way that makes sense, both in the code and in the app. We value accessibility really like much, because we think that unfortunately in these productivity and collaborative tools, project management tools, the people that might have some issues accessing and using and benefit from these tools are set aside, and there's a lot of power hidden into these tools. Like if you are here, you're in the conversation. If you're not here, you're not. And that not having that entitlement, I think it's an issue. So we think we are treating accessibility as a must. One, because we think it's the right thing to do, and two, because we think everyone wins. And when we have that combo, we have a happy face. Like then we have to do that, right? It's the right thing to do, and everyone wins. Sometimes something is the right thing to do, but not everyone wins, and you have to say, okay, let's find a compromise, or not. Sometimes it's the right thing to do. Let's do it anyway. But here we know that by improving accessibility, everyone is going to win, even though you might not notice it. You're going to enjoy it behind the scenes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to log out. Going to yeah, I'm going to use a different user. This user here, and I'm going to create a project. Like you see this for guests, for members. Let me just go through this very quickly. The idea behind a workspace, it's that it's a smart container. A workspace might look like it's just a list of projects, but a workspace does have uh, internal permissions that can be applied, like broadly, bottom down or top down. Sorry, or you could specify custom permission for a workspace so that the projects within a workspace can act independently, right? This is useful when you want to add someone that just got into your department or your company, and the easiest way for them to get to speed is just adding them to the workspace. And you have set up the workspace so that anyone belonging to the workspace has edit permissions to all projects, except for that one project that says I'm special, even though I'm in this workspace. Treat me differently. I don't have that full visibility, or perhaps you don't want that, and you just create another workspace where that is happening. We want to make sure that you can be a guest in a workspace, Basically, that means you belong to a project, but not to the workspace. Or you can be a member of the workspace or an admin of the workspace. And then you have different ways of interacting with the workspace and the projects there. We've seen a lot of feedback from companies that work for other companies that want to have fine-grained visibility options without too much complexity. And I think this is we think we found a very simple yet powerful way to address this. So now I'm using user 900, and I'm going to create a project. Let me just create a project here. So I create a project. I'm just going to say project name, just wonderful audience project Taiga Next Life, and short description here. I'm just going for the automatic image, create project. We have thought through the workflow of creating a project, and of course you can say maybe later, but the invitation option for members is already here. I'm not going to say maybe later because I actually want to right away invite this person. Now I know user 901, and I don't care about, in this case, Jeremy, his email. But if I don't know the username, I could use an email. And there is a ton of work here on how to search through Taiga database, making sure that the privacy options coming from the user are taken into account here. Again, this is a lot of things going behind the scenes, but it's important that people cannot abuse this part of Taiga. They cannot abuse the invitation pop-up or the invitation scheme. Not knowing a username, not knowing an email prevents from things going wrong, but knowing some of it is also, Taiga is also making sure that we are not giving away extra information. Like if you say, I think this email could work because it's an email that is fine, like pablo@taiga.io, right? That's actually a valid email. You could add it, but Taiga's not going to tell you whether that's a user or not. Taiga's not going to tell you whether there is an email address attached to that. Taiga's going to always try to protect that information. The same applies to the username. You might know the username, but we're not going to disclose the email address. Anyway, this looks like it's like why Pablo is spending so much time about this. But remember, when you develop a tool that it's about projects, IP, information, membership, invitations are a key part of the workflow, and we need to make this right. And also, this is an open source product, and open source tends to have privacy at the topmost priority. So it's everywhere there. So I'm going to say in the invites, I'm going to the actually I go to overview. Yeah, pending here. Jeremy Parks is pending, so I'm going to just log out. Going for Jeremy, and here is the pending invitation. So here's the invitation, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore it for now. So I ignore it with a close. This doesn't invalidate the invitation, and I'm going to accept it elsewhere. So I just ignore it. Do you see that? Like very cool animation there. But anytime I access this workspace, or anytime I actually access the project, I'm being reminded that I have an invitation pending. So I'm just going to, let's say I'm here. I forgot that I closed that. I wouldn't want to get bothered, and I just accept the invitation. And I have this pop-up, etc. So even though this is a demo about invitations, you're seeing like how we are arranging stuff, how we are notifying you about changes, the feedback, accessibility, pop-ups, how things are arranged. We're not departing from this core idea that we have like a left sidebar. we think that's still cool, or the top navigation bar, we think that's cool. But we are rethinking every single big screen and that we have at Taiga and the new ones. Let me just check. Yeah. So here I want to please come with me and see how this confluence with Pempot could work. So we see here workspaces, like you can think of this as these containers. They can match your idea of a department or just a sort of a teams or whatever in an organization, and then projects. And when we look at Penpot, surely you probably know about Penpot, but if you don't, that's completely natural because we haven't exited beta, so it's still beta. Although beta not in terms that it's unstable, it's just the fact that we want to achieve, we want to deliver some features and ideas for us to be like happy about not being beta anymore. So you could try it and just there are tons of people already working using Penpot, like doing serious stuff. So so you might recognize this UI. This is a design and prototyping tool. Here I'm actually looking into the design system for Penpot. Penpot is being designed using Penpot, of course. But if I go to the project to the projects dashboard, what you see is that we have here your Penpot, Kaleidos, Career Game. These are my teams that are actually quite similar to the workspaces, perhaps. And within the workspace, I have projects. So we are seeing a natural match between a Taiga workspace and a Penpot team. I don't think we need to name them the same. Like, I don't think it's going to be a fight between Taiga goes for workspace and Penpot wants team to win. Unfortunately, we don't have many options, and all these terms are being abused elsewhere. So, and of course, you cannot go for workspace on Penpot because workspace means a different thing on Penpot. But as long as the integration and how we put things together is easy for users, you can see a workspace on Taiga matching a team on Penpot. And this for me is a great excuse to say that sometimes integrations and this confluence doesn't really need much beyond team sync, like teams knowing that when they add a member in a workspace on Taiga, that is synced to the equivalent Penpot team, right? I'll share why we think this is important and how this means in terms of coupling or decoupling Taiga and Penpot in just a minute. But in terms of the demo, I think for now, this is what I'm sort of allowed to show, like clean design, new visual style. Of course, you haven't seen like Kanban or Scrum or Wiki. You've seen something that is new. We decided that we wanted to start with something that was new, really, that had the more known unknowns, and I think that's it. So I'm going to just log out, stop the demo part here. Okay. So we can stop. Yeah. Now, after this, what are the next steps? And this is again when I go strategic. TaigaNext. So the original plan that we had was, okay, we have Taiga 6. TaigaNext will be Taiga 6 plus something else. This is like the natural course of events. You develop something that is built on top, something on top of the existent. But the more we thought about that, and particularly the past few months, the less relevant that was. And why I'm saying that is because we have now that we have two products, both open source and for the same audiences, there are some challenges that we need to tackle early on. Like there are things that we don't know if we're going to be right about them. We know that we can develop an incredible Scrum module because we already did that, but we're not sure about how to be successful with a Taiga Penpot integration and what that means and how that benefits you in your team. So we decided that in terms of strategy, it was better for us to get TaigaNext to a point where you can use it, despite the fact that it doesn't have all the features that Taiga 6 has, right? So it can have the Kanban, it can have the issues module, of course, all this workspace, organization, new permission system, all that. And then we have the Penpot integration. The reason we want to give priority to that instead of going through the whole list of features before releasing something that you can use in production, because this is something, what I'm referring to, it is for your production environment, is because there is much to gain in redefining what a user story is. And what better way to do that than to see how scope and design, or scope and prototype, can work together. So the earlier we do that, the earlier we find the right solution, the more calm we're going to approach any further module that we knew we had to develop, right? Because the number of known unknowns, the uncertainty is lower, and we want to validate hypotheses, the tricky ones, early on. So in a way, it's good news. I think it's good news that we do this, because we're going to give something of extreme value, something truly new. At the same time, it might be bad news for some people. Who could consider this bad news? People that want to make sure that when they do that migration, as soon as possible, everything they have on Taiga 6 is going to be there on TaigaNext, whatever we call that. That is not going to happen. We're going to release TaigaNext in a state that it can go to production, but if you are like needing the wiki module, it's not going to be there at that time. They're going to be there. You're going to find other stuff. Hopefully, it's going to be super enjoyable for you, but you're not going to find everything. That doesn't mean we're not going to keep developing all that, but it's not coming on the first major release. So TaigaNext Lucy means organization, workspaces, new permission system, Kanban, issues, and the Penpot integration. So you could think perhaps, and this is wild guess, that the way we think about Kanban is going to change. Kanban might now go into a more workflowish way to understand the work. Issues and dependency between issues might change. User stories or Kanban cards definition might change. Dependency between them might change, which is, by the way, something that a lot of you have asked in the past. Like, can we automate workflows where you have a certain number of Kanban cards or user stories that go into a particular state and that triggers an event within Taiga, and some issue just change states or whatever? All those ways to represent dependency or interdependency between issues and user stories is going to be there. We want those to be there. How you comment on a user story when you have a design that is linked to that, but why not go beyond linking a design in a user story and not making the user story the design on Penpot, right? Bringing scope to Penpot and bringing design to scope. So I'm really excited to think about having a user story where actually the definition of the user story is an interactive prototype that is there for you, and you're enjoying that, and you can go to Penpot and comment, and then that comment on that specific design is also synced back on the user story. So you can see that we're trying to go less the path of an isolated tool and more of a workflow confluence. And that the root of this clearly comes from this idea that we have a niche audience that have specific pains, and they need tools that are a game changer. And we're not seeing this. You can see all the competition, and I'm going to give names. Yeah, why not? I mean, Trello, Jira, Figma, Sketch. I don't care. We know who they are, right? They have their proprietary approach, the business model, all that stuff. A lot of people are happy with that, but they are just solo tools. Not in the case of the Atlassian, because they have like massive, but they don't have this match between design and code, between lean and design, right? That we have with Taiga and Penpot. So we have to take that as an advantage. It's one of our strengths. So we're going to pursue that path. And we hope you're excited as we are, because this is going to be something new. And we clearly don't want to be considered a clone of anything that's proprietary. We don't want to be the open source clone of anything. We didn't do that with Taiga. We don't want to do that with Penpot. I hope you take my meaning there, right? We want to just be the best agile tool and the best design tool, regardless of our license, which of course it's going to be open source. It's open source. So this, in very practical matters, means that Taiga 6 is going to still be there. The migration from Taiga 6 to TaigaNext is going to be on demand. You are going to choose whether you want to migrate or not. If you have a self-hosted Taiga 6 instance, you can keep using it as you're doing now. We don't get many like support requests. It's pretty stable. It works. Wonderful. Your integrations, everything should work. If there's any security update, we're going to fix that. I mean, you're going to get this LTS mood or protocol from us. Again, on SaaS, there'll still be Taiga 6 there for you, and we will create a separate SaaS infrastructure for people wanting to jump into the TaigaNext bandwagon, right? So you will be able to do both, and of course you will be able to migrate, but that will be on demand. You can just play with TaigaNext when it's released and say, it's actually quite exciting, this thing they developed at Kaleidos. I was using Scrum, but actually this Kanban module fits my process rather nicely. I've got issues. I could just create sprints this way. I'm actually enjoying more stuff. I love the team workspace organization. It gives me more freedom, and I have this integrating with Penpot. I'll go with TaigaNext. Fine, but you could perfectly say, you know what? I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till you have feature parity on TaigaNext against Taiga 6. That's fine. Eventually that will come. So no rush. We're not that type of company where you say this is what it is. You have to migrate or change, or not only, I mean, on the pricing side of things, but also in like this vendor locking that you eventually suffer from, right? You know what I mean. So so I touched upon the user story evolution. What is this user story, and how can we better the user story concept? I think too many text walls out there in user stories right now, and I think at college we think that design, UX UI in general, now that they enjoy lean and agile processes, deserve to be more at the front of what a user story, what scope means. We've talked about how that will impact workflows for the better, and how we are bringing about this blend between scope and design. And of course, Penpot has a different responsibility, which is blending design and code. But that's for another live update on Penpot. This is for Taiga. So we are just focusing on the scope and design, making sure that anything that we create goes against. This sounds pretty negative, but I'll go ahead anyway. I'll say it anyway. Against the structural handoff mindset, this back and forth conversation, because what we see is nowadays teams, particularly also after the distributed team thing with the pandemic, right? How teams have now to rely on tools to give them this organic workflow matching their conversation, like designers, developers, stakeholders having this conversation, feeling that they are on the same page. But when they go to the tools are disconnected. They are focused on one specific stakeholder, one specific role, and then you have these issues with this back and forth, continuous feeling of not having control, like check, check, always check, like because it, agile and lean, we all agree, is mostly about not producing waste, right? Having zero waste, ideally. But at the same time, you do want to have control. You don't want to just go blindly into the into the taiga and just die there because you were unprepared, right? uh, you want to make sure you have control of what we're having, and that means that those conversations with your teammates do have to take that into account. Tools don't have that into account. Tools prefer to give you that feeling of control but don't deliver that. So I think we want to match that conversation within the team, within the tools, and that is all about processes and workflows. And I think that's it. One more thing before we go into some questions, if there's any, is that in the next following weeks we're going to launch our brand new community space. We hope that you can join us in this conversation, not only in terms of features or when will I have this or technical questions, but also the strategic vision. Um, of course, if you want to have that conversation. This for us, migrating from the old Kaleidos where we were doing this hybrid work, working for other companies for a fee, and then having this internal incubation system where we produced open source products, that is something from the past. Now, this is the only thing we're doing, open source products for cross-functional teams. So we will love to have you being part of that conversation. So let me see. Yeah. So do we have any questions? Okay, we have. Last Mikoy, regarding self-hosting, I'm worried that newer developments on TaigaNext design choices might lead to usage of very difficult to self-host services like Sentry did with Zookeeper. I don't know the particular example of Zookeeper, but TaigaNext is going to be, I wouldn't say primarily, but clearly targeted for self-hosting. I'll give you one, data point. By far, we have many more Taiga users in the world using self-host Taiga than our SaaS. Bigger instances, like we have Taiga instances going beyond 1,000 users. So for us, it's critical that we deliver a fully fledged self-host experience. With Taiga 6, we made that easy or easier. And with Taiga 6, yeah, I said Taiga 6. With TaigaNext, it should be easier. So I hear your worry, but anything that is related to self-hosting, you can count on us that it's going to be something that we make sure we deliver the right way. It's probably accounting for, I don't know, 90% of our audience. And it's one of our competitive advantages over the proprietary competition, whether it's self-hosted or SaaS. So we want to make sure we deliver something quite exciting. So I would love to have you on the community space when we launch it, and just elaborate that a bit more, so we make sure that we can address that and sort of address your concern um, in a very honest way, right? Okay. Weaver Markev, does Taiga have any plans for a partner strategy? I'm unfamiliar if it'd be relevant for Taiga's vision, but it seems to be important for implementing any base app. Yes. So in terms of partnership, there are soft partnerships and super strong partnerships. So the strongest partnership is going to be Penpot because it's just ourselves. But if we go beyond that, we have this soft partnership now with Elestio. That's ELESTIO, sorry, .io. And we are testing that with both Penpot and Taiga. And they do on-premise as a service, right? So that you can use any cloud that there is, and you pay them for monthly fee depending on the size of your instance. And they can offer you curated open source products to go with Taiga or Penpot, and then you can integrate those easily. So that would make it easier for admins or non-admins, actually just one-click deployments, trivially easy to do that. Now, that is in terms of like deployment. In terms of integration, we have plans to integrate with N8N. We already have Zapier integrations, but to be honest, we've done a ton of work around that. We have the API, and the API will still remain something critical for us. Probably one of the best APIs that there you can find out there for a project management platform. People tend to use the API more than integrations with other tools. But yes, I'll give you an example. The integration that we plan with Penpot should be ideally tool agnostic. So any other design tool should copy that and make that their own choice, right? Mm, but if you have any suggestion on any app, any business app, tell us. Anyone that you think we should partner with so that we create specific plugins and we devote resources like people developing that and making sure that we can maintain it, other than having a great API and waiting for other people to say this is important. Because in the past we've made that mistake. We made the mistake of believing that a specific partnership was relevant when it was not. So it's a tricky business, but I agree with you. Some of these partner strategies feel important to us. Yes. Again, last Miko, thank you very much. I'm really sure I'm looking forward to trusting your teams further with my project management tools. Thank you. That's my happy face. Martin S, thanks a lot for your software. It's simple and powerful for our team. Do you plan that future of customize the color of the task cards on the board? At the moment, Taiga has only red or block task. Yes, yes. I mean, we don't have like a user story that says customizing the color of the task cards on the board, but we know that it's limited at the moment. The radiator that is the Kanban, right? The information radiator that is the Kanban can be improved. We have tags, and tags can have colors, and you can go into the detail zoom and all that. But why not making that visually more compelling and more obvious? I think it's good to have blocked cards stand out, like painfully stand out with that red color. But we should have other ways to show something about the task or the card through a color. Now, since accessibility is critical for us, we will make sure that any of that is fine with that, right? We must make sure that it's not just a fancy way of showing information, but it's functional for everyone. But absolutely, yes. I personally would love to see, research on that arena. So thank you, Martin, for that question. Okay, Adam, Miriam Gonzalez, no, Taiga UX there, one of the Taiga UX. So it will be possible for someone to act in both developer and project management role? Yeah, I think the whole point about this workspace organization slash workspace slash project permission slash roles is to give more flexibility around the typical use cases. It's meant to give you like instant typical use case approach, but then if you have the time, just tweak it exactly the way you want. And so now you would have the administrator, but you could also belong to a specific role. Now, in terms of permissions, honestly, you're going to have the what's giving more for you, right? So if you're a project manager, and that means admin, in the case of any conflicting permissions, you're going to go for the admin. Actually, I didn't show it, but the permission page in some projects, we made it so that it's inconsistent. Like you give more permissions to the public users than to the existing project members. That doesn't make sense, right? Why public users would have more permissions? And we tell you that there is an inconsistency. So we're trying always to just help you understand what that means for your project and your team members. Let's see if we have any other questions. Running out of time. John Locke, are there going to be any screens for cross-project items, Kanban board with items for multiple projects? Eventually, yes. Right now, you can have that with the Epic module. You can have an Epic that can be sort of the child user stories can belong to any project. Typically, you will use within project user stories, but you can actually go and search for any other project you have permissions for. But yeah, this multi-project dashboard, basically what represents is just bringing work coming from different projects together in just one screen. So you said, example, a Kanban board. I don't know if it's going to be the Kanban board, but surely there will be something that allows you to just mix, take things from different projects and put it in one place. That is what we call multi-project dashboard. It might look like a Kanban board, to be honest, but I'm not sure it's going to be the Kanban board. But probably it's what you're after. So I think we're on the same page here. Okay, let's see, any more questions? Gordon McConnell. Not sure if you want feature request here. Not sure. But an executive one-page dashboard displaying sprints and progress across tag relevant projects we found as a great tool for those. Yeah, this is a very interesting question, Gordon. Do you know what? We have found this to be a ton of, to provide a ton of benefit. What we don't have is the right solution. We thought we had it, and we have some mock-ups. And at some point, if you're in the community space, we can share those. There are, I think, 3. They're from STER. I think they're 3 years old. And what we did was exactly that, exactly what you're saying. And we had some companies that were, helping us shape up Taiga 6 at the moment, saying that's exactly what we need. And then other companies that had phrased their need exactly like you did, and the other companies did, saying, no way, that's not what we need. So we decided, okay, there's some issue here, because everyone is the wording of the need is the same, but clearly the need itself is not the same. So we want to have a broader conversation around this, because we consider this to be very important. This is all about the multi-project, multi-team dashboard. It's just tracking multiple items through Taiga. It's just in one place, and like very visually, immediately understanding what's going on, right? In terms of team workload, project against project progress, so you can better allocate, team members, or understand if there's a potential bottleneck coming next in a project, things like that, in just one screen, just one page. But that is trickier to develop than to define, according to feedback that we got from one of our first sketches. But yes, truly excited about that. Find the right solution for everyone. Not in our instance, it gives insight to other stakeholders. Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. It is probably one of the typical API use cases that we have for Taiga, like people taking all that information and creating their dashboard, custom dashboard. And that is what we see. custom dashboards. So at some point in the past, we said, look, everyone wants their custom dashboard. It's going to be impossible to agree, to make everyone happy, because everyone sees their dashboard differently, like what they want to see, etc. But I think at some point we also realized that we need to have some dashboard. So it's just which one and how many custom dashboards built on top of the API would go away instantly when we show this. It's one of the metrics that we could have as a successful metric, right? For that dashboard. So again, would love to see what you built and what it looks like and what is delivering, and factor that in at the time when we are going into the multi-product dashboard. It's still a way. It's not immediate. So this is something that we'll keep talking about in the next following months before we start really developing it. All right, 4 minutes to go. Storyboard, yes, absolutely. And I think that's a question more for, if I understand correctly, more Pempot. And yeah, we honestly, we want to have all that storyboard brings into Pempot. So, and that's sort of our top priority at the moment, since we want to match. So for you Taiga people, this is clearly Adam is asking for Pempot, or at least I understand this question is for Pempot team. So Pempot team might answer this differently, but in general, if Pempot is the tool that matches design and code, we need to make sure that we have an easy way for designers to say, this is my design system, these are my design tokens, this is the final design, this is the latest release, these are the changes, so developers can go there and pick what they need and have that in a very straightforward protocol or screen or anything. Therefore, oh, sorry. Yeah, Storybook. Thank you. So forget what I just said. It's super exciting. I'm really excited about that at Pempot. Storyboard. No, I think probably from the name, it could be something related to a Kanban board. But no. Would you consider us to look into that? I mean, myself, I don't know about that. Probably other members of the team do. But why were you asking that? What do you think we could learn from them? If you could put that into the chat. And sorry, I went way differently in that answer, but it's a topic I like a lot. So you get that for free. So Adam probably just writes down. It might not just be here, showing up, but we want to keep track of that. Why you think we should look at that? So yeah, I think that's it, right? So it's 28 past, I think. Well, thank you very much to everyone that joined. This is a record. This is a live stream, but it just it gets recorded for free these days, so it will remain here. We'll make sure you get the link so you can share it with your team members or the people that may get interested. Thank you very much. It was fantastic. I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope you're excited about the future of Taiga, the future of Taiga and Pempot, and we're trying to achieve, building on top of and building open source on top of open source and building open source on a great community that you belong to. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of the week. So bye-bye.